Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you. Great to have you along. Today's episode brought to you by AMC Urgent Care. And we're going to stick with basketball once again. And today, talking to head basketball coach of the boys, Jacob Birnbaum, who we can now say has got his first win under his belt after the win last week. And man, talk about an exciting first game. You couldn't ask for one more exciting than that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know everyone saw the roster that they had. A bunch of people saw the size that they had coming in, and probably wrote us off a little bit. But couldn't have asked for the guys to play any harder, to execute better than they did. We got some things we could have done a little bit better towards the end of the game, but man, it was just a great feeling to get the first one under my belt.
Yeah, and you may have had the best athlete on the floor. They may have the best collection of athletes, but it's a team sport. And your guys played well down the stretch. They protected the ball when they needed to, and that made a big difference. So, yeah, maybe you didn't have the best athletes if you're matching it up, but ball's not won like that a lot of times. It's won by what you do on the floor as a team.
Oh yeah, it's a team game. It's definitely the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. So that's really what we've been trying to preach. Like you said, when you have a guy like Tay Moore on your team, I feel like any given night, I probably have the best basketball player. But that being said, everyone still has a role to play. It's easy to go in the scorebook, and see Tay had 28 points, which he had an incredible offensive performance. But there's guys that finished that game with 0 points. Where, like for example, Cooper Rich had 4. Trent Jackson didn't score any points. Zayden Stoll didn't have it score any points. But they're in there fighting with guys that are 6'10", 6'11", and they held their own against them. So
Yep.
I just wanted to shout those guys out because when we went back and watched the film, they did an incredible job fighting, making everything difficult for those guys. And without the effort from them, we probably don't walk out of there with a W. So it's just the collection of everybody doing their job, knowing their role, is what is going to make our team great.
Well, you had scrimmages before, you got to practice, but you don't really know till the metal's tested, right? And you get into that game. You mentioned some of the guys there, but who on the team, and not just one guy, just really surprised you maybe as far as like, okay, this guy not point wise, but just can game.
Man, Nate Silk was another guy that really just brought that energy for us. Like you could almost feel the difference between having him on the court versus off the court. And it showed in our stats too. He actually had the highest plus minus out of all of our players on last Tuesday night. And in the scorebook he only has 2 points. But when he's out there, he's constantly encouraging everybody, pulling guys in, making sure everybody's on the same page, and that's huge for us.
Yeah, and pressure is going to happen. That's part of high school ball. You're trying to turn people over. I thought for the most part there was some things late you probably wanted to be better, but for the first game, I thought you guys handled the pressure well.
Yeah, I did too. Pressing and picking us up full court historically has been something that we've really struggled with. So it's something that we've worked at really hard. I felt like we handled it very well. Had a couple turnovers late when, we just have a lot of young players out there that haven't ever been in that sort of situation before. But credit to them, even though we didn't handle it with quite as much poise as I would have liked, we still were able to get the job done and finish with a victory.
Well, and that's the next thing is adversity is part of sports. How do you react to that adversity? And when a team's roaring back, how do you accomplish the goal, which is to win? And that's the thing. You were tested multiple times on comebacks. You even got down a little bit early in the game. These guys didn't give up, and they held on and did exactly what they're supposed to do, go out there and win a game.
And that's what we preach every day is control what you can control. You can't always control if the shots go in. Sometimes you can play great, amazing defense, and they're still going to score on a tough shot. But we just have to go out and do what we practice every day, continue to do the things that we feel like are going to make us successful. And when we hit that adversity, that's when we got to do those things even more and not get into that mindset of, oh, I got to go do this or I got to go do that. Like, we know what works. We know what we're good at. So as long as we stick with that and stay focused on executing our stuff, we'll be fine throughout the season.
All right, at the taping of this, they haven't had their first district game. That changes as we're taping. That's tonight. And then you got next week before you go on that Christmas break. But talk about this district lineup, and now that you get into district play, and I know that a game got canceled with Bartlesville, but you got 3 games, and in this district, it's going to be tough. So you finally get to kind of show where you're at, and it's not like we think about college basketball and everything else, and even in the past where it's like, okay, we got a few games before we get to district play. Not the case. You jump right in.
Yep. But we're excited. One of the main things we've been preaching, and that's been a kind of an identity of our program so far this year, is we know people around the state don't respect us, and we haven't given them a reason to, up until this point. But that's one thing that we're really focused on coming out and gaining, is just in district play, is gaining that respect from everybody else. We weren't we weren't picked to finish very high within our own district, but I know as we look out across our district schedule, speaking for myself and for the players, I don't feel like there's anybody in our district that we don't think we can compete with.
Yeah.
And that win Tuesday night, I think, is a big wheel in turning us in the right direction, because now the players have that belief. They weren't quite sure before, but now that we know we can go out and do this, it's a whole different feeling.
All right, and it sounds like Rodney Dangerfield. I know your kids probably don't know who that is. You may not even know who it is, but most of us know the no respect. Can't get no respect. I mean, that's what you're trying to earn. And talk about that win, just overall. You mentioned it a little bit there, but what that does for the confidence, because you saw them get off their vans and you see them get in there. And I think most people in that stadium is like, oh no, here we go. They get a couple of dunks early, and you're like, oh boy, here we go again. Wasn't the case. What that does for your guys, knowing that they can compete against elite athletes.
Man, it just gives them all the confidence. Everybody talks about all the athletes that all the other school have, but I feel like we have fine athletes on our team. Like, I tell my guys all the time, I wouldn't trade you guys for any other team in the world. This is a team that I came here to coach. This is a team that I'm working with, and this is a team that I want to be successful with. And we feel like we have all the right ingredients. We have everything that we need to be a successful basketball team. We just have to continue to buy in, continue to play with each other, take care of each other, and if we go out and put our best effort forward every night, we can live with the results, win, lose, or draw. But we feel like if we're doing everything the right way, we should be able to win a couple more than we lose.
I would agree with that, and it is here, basketball season. They've already had a game, couple depending on when you're watching this, and you got the Christmas break. Then you go full out, and it's 2 games a week, unless you're in a tournament where it's 3 games a week all the way to playoffs. So yeah, it's here, and I know you're excited, and it gets a little better when you get that first win under your belt, though, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Not just for you, for the kids too.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Just around the high school, around the community, they've got a lot of positive vibes and positive messages after. We kind of felt like we went and proved everyone wrong, because a lot of people weren't giving us a chance. So that's been a great week for us. We hope to build on it tonight.
All right. Well, Coach, appreciate the time.
Yes, sir.
Jacob Birnbaum, head coach of the boys basketball team here in Ponca City. You've been watching this episode of Coach's Corner. Been brought to you by AMC Urgent Care. Appreciate that. And we will do it again next time. Until then, Jordan Woodruff saying so long, and go Cats.